They say love is blind. But what they don't tell you is that blindness can cost you everything: your freedom, your family, even your sanity. My name is Sarah, and I learned that the hard way. 4 years ago, I traded my future for a man I thought I loved. By the time I opened my eyes, I was in a prison cell, and he was in my best friend's bed. This isn't a love story. It's not even a tragedy. This is a warning. A reckoning. A reminder of what happens when betrayal digs too deep, and revenge is the only language left to speak. If you've ever been broken, abandoned, or lied to, you'll feel every word of this. But let me be clear, there are no saints in this story. Only sinners. And survivors. It was a Tuesday. Raining. I remember because I almost didn't go to that coffee shop on 5th Street. The universe has a sick sense of humor, doesn't it? One decision to duck out of the rain, and your entire life changes forever. He was sitting alone in the corner booth, staring out the window like he was watching his past drive away in the storm. Marcus Thompson. 6'2", dark skin, eyes that held secrets I thought I wanted to uncover. When he smiled at me, that crooked, boyish grin, I felt something I hadn't felt since college. Hope. You look like you're running from something, he said when I sat down across from him. Just the rain, I laughed. Me too, he said, but his eyes told me he was running from much more than weather. That's how it started. A chance encounter that felt like destiny. For the first time in 3 years since my divorce, I felt alive again. Marcus had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the world who could understand him. Like you were special. Like you were chosen. The early days were intoxicating. Late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn. Spontaneous drives to nowhere. He'd show up at my apartment with takeout and that smile, and suddenly all my problems seemed manageable. He told me about his past slowly, carefully, like he was giving me precious pieces of himself. The teenage conviction first. I was 16, angry, stupid, he said, tears in his eyes. Got caught with the wrong people doing the wrong thing. But that scared me straight, Sarah. I swear to you, I'm not that person anymore. Then the second incident. I trusted the wrong friend, he explained. Didn't know he was dealing. When the cops came, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I learned my lesson about who you can trust. He told me about his mistakes with tears in his eyes, swearing he was a different person now. And I believed him. God help me, I wanted to believe him so badly that I ignored every red flag waving in the wind. The secretive phone calls that he'd taken another room. Work stuff, baby. Boring construction talk. The unexplained absences. Had to help my cousin move. The way he never wanted to meet my friends, especially Emma. I'm not good with groups, Sarah. I'm still working on trusting people. Love makes you blind, but obsession makes you stupid. And I was both. Emma Martinez had been my anchor since college. If I was the dreamer, she was the realist. 5'4" with curly black hair and the kind of laugh that could fill a room, Emma was the sister I never had. She could read people like books, which is probably why she saw through Marcus from day one. There's something off about him, Sarah, she said after meeting him for the first time. He's too smooth. Too practiced. Like he's performed this routine before. You're being paranoid, I'd snap back. You just don't want me to be happy. I want you to be safe, she'd correct. There's a difference. Marcus seemed to dislike Emma from the start. Called her jealous and toxic. Said she was trying to sabotage our relationship because she couldn't stand to see me happy. Every warning she gave me, he had an explanation for. Every concern she raised, he had a reason to dismiss. Looking back, every warning she gave me was a prophecy I refused to hear. But love, or what I thought was love, conquered all logic. Marcus and I moved in together after 8 months. My 1-bedroom apartment became our sanctuary. He was amazing with my 7-year-old son Tommy from my previous marriage. Patient, kind, teaching him to throw a football in the park behind our building. For 2 years, I lived in a bubble of domestic bliss, ignoring the cracks in the foundation. Marcus's irregular work schedule, his vague explanations about business opportunities. His weekend trips to visit old friends that I was never invited to. The way our bills were always somehow covered, even though his construction work seemed sporadic at best. I worked at First National Bank as a loan officer, steady income, good benefits. I supported us both financially, but I didn't mind. I thought we were building something together. A future. A family. I would have done anything for him. Anything. And that's exactly what destroyed me. March 15th. I'll never forget that date. It started like any other Tuesday, Marcus sleeping in after a late night with the crew, me getting Tommy ready for school, the normal morning chaos of domestic life. Then my phone rang. Ms. Parker. This is Principal Johnson at Riverside Elementary. Tommy's had an accident on the playground. You need to come immediately. My heart stopped. How bad is it? He's conscious, but we think his arm might be broken. The ambulance is already here. I woke Marcus up, frantic, grabbing keys and my purse. Tommy's hurt. We have to go. Now. We had to get to Tommy. Nothing else mattered. Not speed limits, not consequences, nothing. My baby was hurt, and every second felt like an eternity. Marcus was behind the wheel, pushing 80 in a 45 zone. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even dial the hospital. Slow down, I kept saying. We won't help Tommy if we're dead. He needs us, Sarah, Marcus replied, jaw clenched, foot heavy on the gas. I'm not letting you down. I'm not letting him down. If I could go back to any moment in my life, it would be that drive. I would have insisted we slow down, follow the rules. But love makes cowards of us all, and fear for my son made me reckless. The blue and red lights appeared in our rearview mirror like a nightmare coming to life. Marcus's face went white. Shit. Shit, Sarah, my license. What about your license? It's suspended. Has been for 6 months. They'll run my record. With my history. He pulled over, hands shaking on the steering wheel. They're going to arrest me. No license, Sarah. They'll run my record. With my history, they'll think I was running drugs or something. I can't go back to jail. I can't. The officer was walking toward us, rain pelting his jacket. In that split second, with sirens wailing and Marcus looking at me with those desperate eyes, I made the stupidest decision of my life. Switch seats. Now. Sarah, no. Switch seats. I'll say I was driving. I'm clean. I can handle a speeding ticket. We switched places quickly, awkwardly, just as the officer reached the window. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Officer, I'm sorry, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I was driving. We got a call about our son. He's been hurt at school. The officer, middle-aged, weathered face, kind eyes, seemed sympathetic. I understand the urgency, but you were doing nearly double the speed limit. License and registration, please. I handed him my license with trembling fingers. Then he asked for the registration. That's when everything fell apart. Marcus fumbled through the glove compartment, his panic growing. I think I left it at home. The officer's expression changed. Professional curiosity replaced sympathy. This your vehicle, Yes, I said without thinking. Yes, it's mine. Marcus shot me a look of pure terror, but I was committed now. We're in such a hurry because of our son. Step out of the vehicle, please. What followed was a nightmare in slow motion. The VIN number didn't match the plates. The car had been reported stolen 3 weeks earlier from a dealership in Phoenix. As they ran the numbers, more police cars arrived. I watched my entire world crumble in the back of that police car. You're under arrest for possession of a stolen vehicle, filing a false police report, and obstruction of justice. Marcus was in a separate car, finally meeting my eyes through the rain-streaked window. I kept thinking this was all a mistake, that it would be sorted out. I was so naive. The evidence against me was overwhelming. My statement claiming ownership of the stolen car. My insistence that I was driving. Security footage from a gas station showing Marcus behind the wheel just hours before our arrest. But here's the thing about the justice system, it's not about truth. It's about what you can prove and who you can afford to prove it. Marcus had a real lawyer. I had a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Marcus's criminal record was mysteriously less relevant to his case, while my clean record somehow made my lies more calculated and premeditated. The man I would have died for sat in that courtroom and painted me as a criminal mastermind. According to his testimony, I had convinced him to steal the car for a quick score. I had threatened to leave him if he didn't help me. I was the mastermind, and he was just another one of my victims. Ms. Parker manipulated me, he said from the witness stand, refusing to look at me. She said we needed money for Tommy's medical bills. She said it would be easy, just for a few days until we could return it. I was stupid enough to believe her. Justice isn't blind. It's just expensive. 4 years for auto theft, filing false police reports, and obstruction of justice. Marcus walked free with 18 months of probation and community service. As they led me away in chains, he whispered, "I'll wait for you, Sarah. I'll make this right, I promise." The last lie he ever told me. Riverside Correctional Facility became my home for the next 4 years. My cellmate was Rosa Delgado, a lifer who'd been inside for 12 years on a murder charge. She was 45, grey-streaked hair always in a tight bun, arms covered in tattoos that told stories of a life lived hard. "First time?" she asked on my first night, watching me cry into my thin pillow. "Hopefully the only time. Honey, prison strips away everything you think you are and shows you who you really are. You can either break, or you can learn. Which one you gonna choose?" I chose to learn. The first month was the hardest. Daily visits from Marcus, tears and promises and declarations of love that felt more desperate each time. He would cry, beg forgiveness, swear he'd make it right somehow. Bring me pictures of Tommy, tell me about his school plays and soccer games. "I'm working with a lawyer," he'd promise. "We're going to appeal. Get you out early. I'm saving money, doing everything right." Emma came too, twice a week like clockwork. Bringing books, care packages, updates from the outside world. She felt guilty about not stopping me from switching seats that day. "I should have been there," she'd say. "I should have talked you out of it." Emma was the only light in that dark place. Her letters kept me sane, her phone calls gave me hope. She was helping care for Tommy while I was gone, making sure he knew his mama was coming home. By month 2, Marcus's visits became weekly. Our conversations shorter. He seemed distracted, distant, always checking his watch. Month 3, the excuses began. Work was crazy. His car broke down. He was sick. Had to help his aunt move. "Something's not right," Rosa observed after watching me hang up the phone in tears one night. A man in love don't make excuses to see his woman. He makes excuses to everyone else. 3 weeks before my first anniversary behind bars, Marcus made his final visit. I could tell something was wrong the moment I saw him through the reinforced glass. He was nervous, jumpy, couldn't meet my eyes. "Something's changed, Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need time to figure things out." "Figure what out?" "I'm the one in prison, Marcus. What could you possibly need to figure out? It's just hard. Harder than I thought it would be. People look at me different now. Like I'm a criminal too." "You are a criminal." I wanted to scream. But I bit my tongue. I needed him. I needed someone on the outside who cared. The kiss goodbye felt like a funeral. Then came the radio silence. Weeks without visits, calls, or letters. I made excuses for him to the other inmates. He's busy. He's grieving. He's planning something. But deep down, I knew. A woman always knows when she's being abandoned. The collect calls that went unanswered became my new form of torture. "The number you have dialed does not accept collect calls from correctional facilities." That automated message became the soundtrack to my heartbreak. Emma's letters became shorter, less frequent too. Suddenly she had a new job out of state. "Phoenix," she said. "Better opportunities." She was sorry, but she couldn't visit as much. Money was tight. The new job was demanding. Looking back, I should have known. The signs were all there, written in neon lights. But denial is a powerful drug, and I was addicted to the hope that the people I loved were better than they actually were. Baby girl, Rosa said one night as I cried over another unanswered letter, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That man showed you who he was the day he let you take the blame for his mistakes. Prison taught me that the only person you can truly depend on is yourself. It also taught me patience, observation, and how to plan. Skills I would need later, though I didn't know it yet. Something died in me that first year. The naive woman who believed in fairy tale love and happily ever after. But something else was born. Something harder. Something more dangerous. A woman who understood that in this world, you either get justice or you take it. Years 2 through 4 blended together in a haze of routine, survival, and slow-burning rage. I worked in the prison library, earned my GED, then started working on a business degree through correspondence courses. Rosa taught me how to read people, how to spot lies, how to plan for the long term. Revenge is a dish best served cold, she'd say, but planning is what keeps it from spoiling. I made connections. Women who'd been betrayed by lovers, by friends, by family. I learned their stories, their methods, their mistakes. Most importantly, I learned from their failures. There was Detective Ray Williams, a former cop who'd been wrongfully imprisoned for corruption he didn't commit. He taught me about evidence, about building cases that would hold up in court. The system failed you once, Sarah, he said during one of our conversations in the yard. Don't let it fail you again. When you get out, if you want real justice, you have to be smarter than they are. Maria Santos, former DEA agent, inside on trumped-up charges after getting too close to the wrong cartel. She showed me how criminal organizations work, how money flows, how to follow the financial breadcrumbs. Jackson Miller, a cybercriminal who'd turned informant. He taught me about digital surveillance, about how to become invisible online while still gathering information. The internet is the greatest spy tool ever created, Jackson would say. People voluntarily document their entire lives. You just have to know where to look. By year 3, I wasn't the same broken woman who'd walked through those gates. I was harder, smarter, more focused. I had a plan forming, piece by piece, like a jigsaw puzzle made of rage and careful calculation. Tommy visited when he could. My baby was growing up without me, becoming a stranger with my eyes and his father's stubborn chin. The visits were awkward, painful. He didn't understand why Mommy was gone, why Uncle Marcus didn't come anymore, why Aunt Emma had moved away. When are you coming home, Mama? He'd ask, and it took everything I had not to break down. Soon, baby. Mama's just learning some things. Getting stronger so I can take better care of you. I was getting stronger. Just not in the way he thought. April 22nd, 2024. 4 years, 1 month, and 7 days after that rainy Tuesday destroyed my life. I walked out of Riverside Correctional with nothing but a box of letters, a bag of clothes that no longer fit, and a rage that had been carefully nurtured and precisely focused. Freedom tastes like disappointment when you have no one to share it with. I expected someone to be waiting. Not Marcus, I wasn't that naive anymore. But maybe Tommy's father, or one of my old friends, or even a social worker. Instead, I found an empty parking lot and a bus schedule that would take me back to a life that no longer existed. My apartment had been given up after year 2. My belongings were in a storage unit that had been paid for by someone. I never found out who. My old job was gone, filled by someone who probably had never made the mistake of loving the wrong person. I found a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat on the wrong side of town. The kind of place where you pay rent in cash and don't ask questions about the stains on the carpet. I got a job at Murphy's Diner, slinging coffee and eggs for truckers and shift workers who tipped in quarters. Starting over at 32 is humbling. Starting over as an ex-convict is devastating. The hardest part was Tommy. 4 years changes a child more than it changes an adult. He was 11 now, living with his father and stepmother, calling someone else mom when he thought I couldn't hear. Our supervised visits were stilted, awkward. He looked at me like I was a stranger who happened to share his DNA. Where were you, Mama? He asked during one particularly painful visit. Everyone said you went away, but nobody would tell me why. How do you explain to an 11-year-old that his mother was an idiot who chose love over logic and paid the ultimate price? But the questions that really haunted me were simpler. Where's Marcus? What happened to Emma? Why did everyone I used to know suddenly develop amnesia when I tried to reconnect? The answers started coming in pieces, like a puzzle made of broken glass. I was walking home from my shift at the diner when I ran into Mrs. Patterson, Marcus's old neighbor. She was coming out of the grocery store, struggling with too many bags and not enough hands. "Sarah. Oh my God, honey, is that you?" She dropped a bag of oranges, her face a mixture of surprise and something that looked like guilt. We hadn't seen you in so long. "I've been away," I said carefully. "Dealing with some legal issues." "Is Marcus still in the old apartment?" Mrs. Patterson's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, then something that looked like pity. "Oh honey, he moved out 2 years ago. With that pregnant girl. They said they were going to Phoenix for his business." The world tilted sideways. Pregnant girl? Pretty little thing. Curly hair. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. They seemed real happy, though. She was showing already, maybe 5 or 6 months along. I helped Mrs. Patterson pick up her oranges while my mind raced. "Did you happen to catch her name?" "Emma, I think. Or something like that. She seemed nice enough. Though it was strange how quickly they left after you went away. It couldn't be Emma. Not my Emma. Not after everything. But I had to know. Emma's old apartment building was a 15-minute walk from the diner. I knew the super, Mr. Kowalski, a sweet old man who'd always remembered my name when I'd visit Emma. "Sarah. Good to see you, honey. You looking for Emma?" "She moved out, must be 2 years now." "Did she say where she was going?" "Phoenix, I think. She was with this tall fellow, seemed nice enough. She was pregnant, real excited about it. Said they were moving for his business." Mr. Kowalski's expression softened. "She left in kind of a hurry, though. Broke her lease and everything. Not like her to be irresponsible." The description fit Marcus perfectly. The timeline fit. The location fit. It couldn't be Emma. Not my Emma. Not after everything. But it was. I spent my savings on a used laptop and taught myself to be a detective. Social media investigation became my new obsession. I created fake profiles, learned to search without leaving digital footprints, became a ghost in their online lives. Finding Emma's new life in Phoenix was easier than it should have been. People document everything these days, and Emma had always been social media obsessed. Her new Instagram account told the whole story at Emma Thompson PHX. Thompson. She'd taken his name. The photos were like daggers through my heart. Their wedding at a small chapel, Emma in a flowing white dress that accommodated her pregnant belly. Marcus in a suit I'd never seen, looking happier than he'd ever looked with me. Their baby girl, Sophia, born just 8 months after my arrest. Their perfect little house with a white picket fence and a garden Emma had always dreamed of. Their happiness built on the grave of my dreams. I scrolled through years of posts. Family barbecues with people I didn't recognize. Date nights at restaurants I couldn't afford when we were together. Vacation pictures from places Marcus always said we'd visit someday. But the post that broke something fundamental inside me was from just 3 months earlier. A picture of Marcus and Emma at what looked like a business event. The caption read, "So proud of my husband for turning his life around. From troubled past to successful business owner. Dreams do come true. #second chances, #love wins, #desert rose lounge." Desert Rose Lounge. A quick Google search revealed it was a trendy bar in downtown Phoenix that Marcus apparently owned. The website showed a sleek, modern interior with craft cocktails and live music. The kind of place that would cost more than my monthly rent just to have dinner. I had given them my freedom, my son, my future. And they had built their happiness on my sacrifice, never looking back, never wondering if I was alive or dead or broken beyond repair. That night, I started planning. Ray Williams was my first call after my release. He'd gotten out 6 months before me, and we'd promised to keep in touch. Ray had connections, People who understood what it meant to be failed by the system, who believed that sometimes justice had to be taken rather than given. Revenge isn't about making them suffer, Sarah, Ray told me over coffee at a dingy cafe downtown. It's about making them face the truth of what they've done. Sometimes the truth is punishment enough. Ray introduced me to Maria Santos, who'd been released a year earlier and was working as a private investigator. Maria had the skills to conduct surveillance, gather evidence, and build cases that would actually stick. "Your boy Marcus," she said after I'd told her everything, "he sounds like small time trying to play big time. Those types always get sloppy. We just need to watch and wait." Jackson Miller was the hardest to track down. Former cybercriminals don't exactly maintain LinkedIn profiles. But Ray knew a guy who knew a guy, and eventually we found Jackson working as a digital security consultant, which is what reformed hackers call themselves when they go legitimate. "Information is power," Jackson told me during our first meeting in his cluttered apartment filled with computer monitors and empty energy drink cans. "Your targets have been living their best life on social media for 4 years. They've documented everything. We just need to connect the dots. We weren't just planning revenge. We were planning justice." The plan had 3 phases. Phase 1, intelligence gathering. Learn everything about Marcus's new life, his business, his associates, his weaknesses. Phase 2, evidence collection. Find proof of whatever illegal activities he was surely still involved in. Men like Marcus don't change, they just get better at hiding. Phase 3, execution. Use everything we'd learned to destroy him the same way he'd destroyed me. Systematically, completely, and legally. "This isn't about getting even," I told my team during one of our planning sessions. "This is about making sure he can never do to anyone else what he did to me." Maria and I took turns driving to Phoenix on weekends, learning Marcus's patterns, documenting his life. The Desert Rose Lounge was more successful than its website suggested. Weekend nights saw lines around the block, expensive cars in the parking lot, the kind of crowd that paid for bottle service and didn't ask where their money went. But it was the weeknight crowd that caught our attention. Smaller groups, quieter conversations, the kind of people who paid in cash and left through the back door. "This isn't just a bar," Maria observed during our 3rd surveillance trip. "This is a hub. Look at the patterns." She was right. The same faces appeared regularly. Not customers enjoying a night out, but business associates conducting meetings. Men in expensive suits who nursed one drink all evening while talking in hushed tones. Women who looked more like accountants than partygoers, carrying briefcases instead of purses. Marcus himself was different. Gone was the charming but unfocused man I'd known. This version was sharp, professional, in control. He moved through his bar like a general commanding his troops. "Money leaves a trail," Maria explained as we photographed license plates and documented faces. "We just have to know how to follow it." Jackson's digital investigation revealed even more. Bank records showed massive cash deposits that didn't match the bar's reported revenue. Business licenses linked to shell companies. Phone records showing regular contact with known associates of the Valdez cartel. "Your ex isn't just running a bar," Jackson reported during one of our video calls. "He's running a money laundering operation. And a pretty sophisticated one." The evidence was overwhelming. The Desert Rose Lounge was a front for washing drug money through legitimate business transactions. Marcus had been busy during my 4 years inside, building a criminal empire while I rotted in a cell for a crime he committed. But the personal betrayal was still the deepest cut. Emma wasn't just his new wife, she was his business partner. Her social media posts were carefully curated lies, but her digital footprint told a different story. Banking credentials linked to shell accounts. Travel records to Colombia and Mexico. Photos from girls' weekends in cities known for cartel activity. Emma knew. She'd known from the beginning. While she was visiting me in prison, bringing me books and comfort, she was already building a life with my betrayer. "She wasn't just your friend who fell in love with your man," Maria said bluntly. "She was part of the plan from the start. Think about it. Who else knew your schedule? Who else knew when you'd be vulnerable? Who else could have convinced you to trust Marcus in the first place?" The realization hit me like a physical blow. Emma hadn't been seduced by Marcus. She'd been working with him. My imprisonment wasn't an accident or an unfortunate consequence of love. It was intentional. They needed me out of the way, and they'd used my own love and loyalty as weapons against me. I had been played. For years. By the two people I trusted most. The rage that followed was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It was cold, calculating, patient. It was the rage of someone who finally understood the game they'd been forced to play. Revenge, I learned, is an art form. It requires patience, creativity, and absolute commitment to the performance. You can't just destroy someone's life and walk away. You have to become someone who can get close enough to plant the seeds of their destruction. So Sarah Parker, ex-convict and victim, had to die. In her place, I created Rebecca Martinez, successful marketing consultant, recently divorced, new to Phoenix and looking for investment opportunities in the hospitality industry. The identity took 3 months to perfect. Jackson helped with the digital footprint, social media accounts backdated 2 years, professional website, LinkedIn profile with fake but believable work history. Maria helped with the documentation, fake business cards, rental car under the Rebecca identity, even a fake ex-husband in case anyone asked about my past. The key, Ray explained, is to become everything your target is attracted to, while being everything they can't have. Make them chase you. I spent weeks studying Marcus through surveillance and social media. His patterns, his preferences, his weaknesses. The man was still a walking collection of insecurities and appetites. He liked successful women but needed to feel superior to them. He was attracted to mystery but couldn't resist trying to solve it. He was a predator who preferred prey that looked like it could fight back. Rebecca Martinez was designed to be his perfect victim. And his perfect downfall. I became everything Marcus was attracted to, successful, mysterious, unavailable. I'd learned to dress differently, carry myself differently, speak differently. 4 years in prison had given me a harder edge, and expensive clothes had given me confidence. Rebecca was everything Sarah had never been allowed to become. Desert Rose Lounge became my second home. I started showing up on slow nights, always alone, always nursing expensive whiskey and reading business reports. I tipped well, was polite to staff, and completely ignored Marcus for the first 2 weeks. "You're the woman in the corner booth," he finally said, approaching with that same confident swagger I remembered. "Rebecca, right? I'm Marcus, the owner." "I know who you are," I said without looking up from my tablet. "Your bar has potential, but your security system is outdated and your inventory management is amateur." It was exactly the right approach. Challenging, dismissive, but with just enough interest to hook him. He sat down without being invited. "You're blunt. I like that. What kind of business are you in?" "The kind that makes money," I replied. "The question is, are you interested in making more money, or are you content running a neighborhood bar?" I was playing with fire, but I was no longer afraid of getting burned. I'd already lost everything. What was left to fear? Over the following weeks, I became a fixture at Desert Rose. Always alone, always mysterious, always just out of Marcus's reach. I watched him work his charm on other women, the same routine he'd used on me years earlier. The intense eye contact, the vulnerable backstory, the promises of a better future. He's so predictable, I confided to Maria during one of our weekly check-ins. A walking cliché of male weakness. But I wasn't just there for Marcus. I was studying his entire operation. The late-night meetings with suspicious characters. The cash transactions that never appeared on any register. The way certain customers were escorted to the back office for private tastings that lasted exactly 18 minutes. I documented everything. Photos of license plates, recordings of conversations. Phoenix is a one-party consent state. Financial observations that painted a clear picture of systematic money laundering. Marcus's attempts to seduce Rebecca were almost insulting in their transparency. The same lines, the same vulnerable act, the same promises of excitement and adventure. Did he think I wouldn't remember? Or did he just assume all women were equally stupid? "You're different from most women I meet," he told me one night, leaning closer across the bar. There's something in your eyes. Like you've seen things. Experienced real life. I have, I replied truthfully. The question is, have you? He started confiding in me about his past. A carefully edited version, of course, where he was always the victim of circumstances beyond his control. The woman who'd betrayed him by forcing him into criminal activity. The friend who'd turned on him when times got tough. I had to make some hard choices to survive, he explained, mixing my drink with practiced precision. Sometimes you have to sacrifice one thing to save everything else. He actually told me he felt guilty about someone he'd had to betray to survive. The irony was so thick I could taste it. What happened to her? I asked, fighting to keep my voice neutral. Prison, he said with what seemed like genuine sadness. She made some bad choices, got caught up in something she couldn't handle. I tried to help, but... He shrugged. Sometimes you can't save people from themselves. Every drink I bought, every laugh I faked, every moment I spent in that place was an investment in his downfall. I was building a case, gathering evidence, and watching Marcus fall for the same patterns that had once trapped me. The difference was, this time I knew exactly what I was doing. By month 3 of my Rebecca performance, I had everything I needed. Financial records showing consistent patterns of money laundering. Photos of Marcus meeting with known cartel associates. Recordings of him discussing drug shipments and payment schedules. Most damning of all, I had his trust. Marcus had fallen for Rebecca the same way I'd once fallen for him, completely and stupidly. He started talking about leaving Emma, about starting fresh with someone who understood him. The man had learned nothing in 4 years. I made mistakes with my ex-wife, he confided during one of our late-night conversations. She doesn't understand the business side of things. Thinks everything should be simple, legal, clean. But the world doesn't work that way, Rebecca. Sometimes you have to bend the rules to get ahead. And if she finds out? I asked, playing the role of concerned other woman. She won't. Emma's smart, but she's not curious. As long as the money keeps coming and the lifestyle stays comfortable, she doesn't ask questions. He was wrong about that. Emma knew everything. I'd confirmed it through careful investigation of her own digital footprints. Bank accounts in multiple names. Travel patterns that coincided with major cartel activities. She wasn't an innocent wife being kept in the dark, she was his full partner in crime. The federal agencies were already interested in the Desert Rose before I made contact. Marcus's operation hadn't been as subtle as he thought. But my evidence, detailed financial records, photographs, recordings, gave them everything they needed for warrants. Maria had connections in the Phoenix DEA office. People who remembered her before her wrongful imprisonment, who knew she was clean. When she presented our evidence through back channels, they moved fast. We've been watching this place for 8 months, Agent Rodriguez told Maria during their clandestine meeting. Your information fills in gaps we've been struggling with. Where did you get all this? Let's just say someone with a personal interest in seeing justice done, Maria replied. I didn't want credit. I wanted results. The raids happened on a Thursday night in November, almost exactly 4 years after I'd been sentenced. I watched from across the street as federal agents swarmed Desert Rose Lounge like a SWAT team. They carried out boxes of evidence, computers, safes I'd never seen during my Rebecca visits. Marcus was arrested trying to flee through the kitchen. Emma was picked up at their house 2 hours later, their 2-year-old daughter watching from the window as her mother was led away in handcuffs. I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, satisfaction. His empire crumbled faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Frozen bank accounts, seized assets, the bar shut down permanently. His criminal associates scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Within a week, the man who'd destroyed my life was reduced to a public defender and a jail cell. But the personal reckoning was still to come. I waited 2 weeks before visiting Emma in county lockup. Let her sit with her fear, her confusion, her growing understanding that her perfect life had been a mirage. When I finally appeared on her visitor list, using my real name, I could see the shock ripple across her face through the reinforced glass. Sarah. Her voice was barely a whisper. But, how, what are you doing here? I live here now, I said calmly. In Phoenix. Have for several months, actually. Emma's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, growing horror, and finally, terrified understanding. Rebecca, she whispered. You're Rebecca Martinez. Took you long enough to figure it out. Though I suppose you've had other things on your mind. Like raising the daughter you conceived while I was rotting in prison because of your boyfriend. The color drained from Emma's face. Sarah, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how my best friend started fucking my boyfriend while I was serving time for his crime? Can you explain how you built your perfect little family on the foundation of my destroyed life? Tears started flowing down Emma's cheeks, but I felt nothing. 4 years of prison had burned the sympathy right out of me. You don't understand, she sobbed. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Marcus was devastated when you got arrested. He was broken, Sarah. I was trying to comfort him. By fucking him? It wasn't like that. We were both grieving. We both missed you. It just happened. And the baby? Did that just happen too? Emma's silence was answer enough. The truth is worse than I imagined, isn't it? I continued. You weren't seduced by Marcus while I was gone. You two planned this whole thing. You helped him manipulate me into taking the fall. You probably suggested he date me in the first place, didn't you? Get close to someone naive enough to sacrifice herself for love. Sarah, please. How long, Emma? How long were you two together before I went to prison? Her silence stretched between us like a chasm. The whole time, I said, understanding flooding through me. You were with him the whole time. The reason he never wanted to meet my friends wasn't because he was shy. It was because he was already fucking my best friend. The look in her eyes when she understood that I knew everything, that was almost enough revenge by itself. But I wasn't finished. Here's what's going to happen, Emma. You're going to plead guilty to whatever charges they offer you. You're going to cooperate fully with the federal investigation. And you're going to disappear from Phoenix and never contact Marcus again. I have a daughter, Sarah. She needs her mother. You should have thought about that before you built your family on my grave. Your daughter will be better off without a criminal for a mother. I stood to leave, but turned back one last time. Oh, and Emma? That perfect life you built with my betrayer? It was never real. Marcus was cheating on you too. With me. For 3 months. He told me all about how you didn't understand him, how you'd gotten boring after the baby, how he was planning to leave you for someone who appreciated him. The devastation in her eyes was beautiful. Marcus's arrest came 2 days after Emma's. By then, he knew what was happening. Maria had made sure word reached him that Rebecca Martinez was actually Sarah Parker. Let him sit with that knowledge. Let him understand that his victim had become his hunter. When he called me from jail, how he got my number, I'll never know. His voice was different. Smaller. Afraid. Sarah, please, we need to talk. Do we? I know you're angry, but you don't understand the whole situation. Emma manipulated both of us. She was the one with cartel connections. I was just trying to survive, trying to protect you by staying away. Even facing federal charges, the man was still lying. Marcus, I said calmly, shut up and listen. You're going to prison for a very long time. Probably 15 years if you're lucky. Emma's going to prison too. Your daughter is going into foster care. Your business is gone, your assets are seized, and your criminal friends have already forgotten your name. Sarah, please. I'm not finished. You destroyed my life because you thought I was weak, stupid, expendable. You were wrong about everything except the expendable part. I was willing to be sacrificed for love. But here's what you didn't count on. I was also willing to be reborn for justice. It doesn't have to be like this. We can work something out. I have money hidden, connections. The money's already been found. The connections have been arrested. You have nothing left to bargain with. Silence. The woman you betrayed isn't the woman you're talking to now, Marcus. She died in a prison cell 3 years ago. What's left is everything you feared I might become. Everything you tried to destroy before I could become dangerous. What do you want, Sarah? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to know that every year you spend in prison, I'll be out here rebuilding the life you stole from me. I want you to lie awake at night knowing that the woman you thought was weak enough to destroy was actually strong enough to destroy you. Marcus was sentenced to 18 years for money laundering, drug trafficking, racketeering, and conspiracy. The judge was particularly harsh, noting his pattern of manipulating others to commit crimes while evading responsibility himself. Emma received 8 years as a cooperating witness, but lost custody of Sophia permanently. The little girl went to Emma's parents, who wanted nothing to do with the daughter who'd brought shame to their family. The local Phoenix News picked up the story, Desert Rose money laundering ring exposed by anonymous tip. My name was never mentioned, which was exactly how I wanted it. Sometimes the best revenge is the kind where your enemy never gets to see you coming. But the real victory was personal. Tommy and I began the slow process of rebuilding our relationship. At 15, he was old enough to understand that sometimes good people make terrible choices for love. He was angry at me for leaving, at his father for not fighting harder for custody, at the world for being unfair. But he was willing to try. I missed you, Mom, he told me during one of our weekend visits. I was mad, but I missed you. I missed you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. Was it worth it? What you did for him? No, I said honestly. But what I learned from it was. I learned that love without respect is just another word for abuse. I learned that loyalty without wisdom is just another word for stupidity. And I learned that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who teach you the most about who you really are. Ray Williams and I grew closer during those months of planning and execution. He understood what it meant to have your life destroyed by betrayal, to rebuild from nothing, to fight for justice when the system fails you. Love after betrayal is like walking on glass, every step could cut you, but sometimes you find someone whose scars match yours. You know, Ray said one evening as we watched the sunset from my new apartment balcony, most people would say what we did was wrong. Taking the law into our own hands. Most people have never been betrayed by someone they'd die for, I replied. Most people have never watched their entire life get stolen while the thieves build their happiness on your grave. Do you regret it? Any of it? I thought about that for a long time. Did I regret sacrificing myself for Marcus? Absolutely. Did I regret trusting Emma with my deepest secrets and greatest vulnerabilities? Without question. Did I regret spending 4 years in prison for crimes I didn't commit? Every single day. But did I regret hunting them down and exposing the truth? Did I regret watching their empire crumble? Did I regret the look in Marcus's eyes when he realized the victim had become the predator? Not for 1 second. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just gives you something to do while you heal yourself. And the healing, I discovered, was harder than the revenge. Learning to trust again took years. Learning to love again took longer. The woman who'd blindly believed in fairy tale romance was gone forever, replaced by someone harder, more suspicious, less willing to accept pretty lies over ugly truths. Sometimes I miss her, that naive girl who believed that love was enough to overcome anything. She had a lightness I'll never get back, an optimism that prison burned out of me. But she was also weak, gullible, easily manipulated. The woman I became was harder but safer. Tommy struggled with having a mother who'd become a stranger. The woman he remembered was soft, yielding, always ready to see the best in people. The woman who came home was calculating, suspicious, quick to see through lies and manipulation. You're different, Mom, he said during one of our early dinners together. Scarier. I'm the same person, baby. I just learned some hard lessons about how the world really works. Are you angry all the time now? The question stopped me cold. Was I angry all the time? Had seeking justice turned me into someone consumed by rage? I was angry, I said carefully. For a long time, I was furious. But anger is exhausting, Tommy. Eventually, you have to choose, stay angry and let it poison your whole life, or use it as fuel to build something better. Did you build something better? I looked around our small but comfortable apartment. At the college brochures on the table, I'd decided to finish my degree. At the business plan I'd been working on, a consulting firm for victims of white-collar crime. At the life I was slowly, carefully rebuilding from the ashes of my old dreams. I'm trying to, I said. Every day, I'm trying to. The hardest lesson was learning the difference between justice and revenge. Justice is about making things right. Revenge is about making things even. I'd thought I wanted revenge, but what I'd actually achieved was justice. Marcus was in prison for crimes he'd actually committed. Emma was facing consequences for choices she'd actually made. Their daughter was with family who would love her without using her as a prop in their criminal enterprise. But justice came with its own price. The woman who could methodically destroy 2 lives over the course of 6 months was not the same woman who could blindly trust in love. I'd gained power but lost innocence. I'd gained knowledge but lost the ability to see the world through rose-colored glasses. Sometimes I wondered if the trade was worth it. Maria kept in touch, helping other victims build cases against people who'd wronged them. She'd found her calling in the gray areas between law enforcement and vigilante justice. You know what the difference is between us and them? She asked during one of our monthly coffee meetings. We actually care about truth. They only care about what they can get away with. Jackson had gone fully legitimate, running a cybersecurity firm that specialized in helping victims of digital stalking and harassment. He'd found redemption in protecting people instead of exploiting them. The skills don't change, he explained. Just the motivation behind them. Ray and I built something real together. Not the desperate, all-consuming obsession I'd mistaken for love with Marcus, but something steadier. We understood each other's scars, respected each other's boundaries, and never asked the other to sacrifice their integrity for the relationship. The difference between love and obsession, Ray observed one night, is that love makes you want to be a better person. Obsession makes you willing to become a worse one. He was right. What I'd felt for Marcus wasn't love, it was addiction. The need to be needed, to save someone, to prove that my love was pure enough to redeem another person's sins. It was ego disguised as devotion, and it had nearly destroyed me. Real love, I learned, is quieter. It doesn't ask you to sacrifice your values, your freedom, or your future. It doesn't require you to ignore red flags or make excuses for inexcusable behavior. Real love builds you up instead of tearing you down. But the most important lesson was about friendship. Emma's betrayal had taught me that proximity doesn't equal loyalty, and history doesn't guarantee future faithfulness. The people who truly love you will tell you hard truths even when it's uncomfortable. They'll challenge your bad decisions instead of enabling them. I thought Emma was protecting me by staying silent about Marcus's flaws. In reality, she was protecting him while setting me up for destruction. Real friends don't let you switch seats with disaster. 2 years after Marcus's conviction, I was a different woman living a different life. I'd finished my business degree through night classes while working at the diner. Started my consulting firm with Ray as my business partner. We specialized in helping victims of financial crime navigate the legal system and rebuild their lives. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd become an expert in the very thing that had destroyed me. Tommy was 17 now, a senior in high school with plans to study criminal justice. He wanted to be a prosecutor, he said, someone who made sure the system worked for victims instead of just criminals. Did what happened to us make you want to be a lawyer? I asked him one day as we reviewed his college applications. Partly, he said. But mostly I watched what you did. How you didn't stay a victim. How you fought back and won. I want to do that for other people. My heart swelled with pride. Maybe something good had come from all the pain after all. The consulting firm was thriving. Turns out there's a lot of demand for someone who understands how to gather evidence on financial criminals, how to work with federal agencies, how to rebuild your life after betrayal. My client base was primarily women, wives who'd discovered their husbands were embezzling, girlfriends who'd learned their partners were running cons, business partners who'd been left holding the bag for crimes they didn't know they were committing. I could see myself in every one of them. The shock, the denial, the rage, the determination to fight back. The difference was, they had an advocate who'd been through hell and knew the way out. Marcus tried to write to me several times during his first year in federal prison. I never opened the letters, but I didn't throw them away either. They sat in a box in my closet like evidence of a crime I'd successfully prosecuted. Emma wrote 2 shorter notes that Jackson intercepted and forwarded to me without comment. Apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness that were 5 years too late. I never responded to either of them. Some people believed I should forgive them, move on, let go of the anger that had consumed so much of my life. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, well-meaning friends would say. But they misunderstood the nature of my anger. I wasn't holding on to it, I'd used it. Transformed it into something productive, something that had restored balance to a universe that had been knocked off its axis by their betrayal. I didn't hate Marcus and Emma anymore. Hate requires energy, and they'd taken enough of my energy already. What I felt was something colder and more final, indifference. They were problems I'd solved, equations I'd balanced, debts I'd collected. They were no longer part of my story except as cautionary tales I shared with clients who needed to understand that betrayal was survivable, that justice was possible, and that love should never require you to become someone you're not. The most surprising consequence of my quest for justice was discovering who I really was underneath all that blind devotion and misplaced loyalty. Prison had stripped away my illusions about people, about the world, about myself. The experience of methodically destroying the people who'd wronged me had revealed capabilities I'd never known I possessed. I was good at reading people. Excellent at planning. Frighteningly effective at manipulation when I needed to be. These weren't skills I'd ever wanted to develop, but once I had them, I found ways to use them for good instead of evil. My consulting work evolved beyond just financial crime. I started helping domestic violence victims document their abuse, gathering evidence that would hold up in court. I worked with divorce attorneys to uncover hidden assets from cheating spouses. I specialized in cases where traditional law enforcement had failed the victim. You have a gift, one client told me after I'd helped her prove her ex-husband had been embezzling from their joint business. You see through people's lies like they're made of glass. It's not a gift, I replied. It's a survival skill I learned the hard way. Tommy was proud of the work I was doing, proud of the woman I'd become. You turned something terrible into something that helps people, he said. That's pretty badass, Mom. Ray and I talked about getting married, having more children, building a traditional life together. But we both understood that we were different people than we would have been without our traumas. We moved carefully, communicated constantly, never took each other's loyalty for granted. Do you think we would have found each other without going through hell first? Ray asked one evening as we watched a movie on the couch, his arm around my shoulders. Probably not, I admitted. The woman I used to be couldn't have loved someone like you. She needed to be saved. You need a partner, not a victim. And the man I used to be wouldn't have appreciated someone like you. I needed to learn that strength is sexier than vulnerability. We were both right. We'd been broken by betrayal and rebuilt ourselves into people capable of recognizing real love when we found it. 5 years after my release, I got a call from Maria. Emma was being released on parole after serving 6 years of her 8-year sentence. Good behavior, cooperation with authorities, completion of rehabilitation programs. She wants to meet with you, Maria said. Says she has things to tell you about what really happened. About Marcus's original plan. I don't need to hear anything from Emma. She says there were other women, Sarah. Before you. That you weren't his first victim. That stopped me cold. She has names, dates, details about a pattern going back almost a decade. Women who thought they were saving him, who ended up destroyed when he was done with them. She says she wants to help you build cases against him for crimes he committed before you met him. The idea of Marcus having a trail of victims shouldn't have surprised me. Men like him don't suddenly become predators, they refine their techniques over time. Where is she now? Living with her parents in Tucson. Works at a grocery store, sees her daughter on supervised visits twice a month. She looks broken, Sarah. Completely broken. I thought about it for a week before agreeing to the meeting. Not because I owed Emma anything, but because other women deserved justice too. We met at a coffee shop in Tucson, neutral ground, public place, escape routes planned. Emma looked older than her 34 years. Prison had aged her the way it ages everyone, harder lines around the eyes, more careful movements, the wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice smaller than I remembered. "I'm not here for you," I said bluntly. "I'm here for the other women you mentioned." Emma nodded, accepting the boundary. Then she told me about Marcus's real history. The women before me, at least 4 that she knew of. Jennifer, who'd taken the fall for a credit card fraud scheme. Amanda, who'd been convinced to smuggle drugs and spent 3 years in a Mexican prison. Lisa, who'd committed insurance fraud for him and lost her nursing license. He had a type, Emma explained. Professional women with something to lose. Divorced or single mothers who needed financial stability. Women who were lonely enough to believe they could save him. "And you helped him target them?" "Not at first. I met Marcus through Amanda, she was my cousin. When she got arrested, Marcus came to me crying, saying he'd tried to stop her but she wouldn't listen. I believed him. But you figured out the pattern. By the time I realized what he really was, I was already pregnant and in too deep. He told me if I tried to leave or expose him, he'd make sure I went down with him. Said he had evidence of my involvement that would put me away for decades." Emma had been as trapped as the rest of us, just in a different way. Instead of being the victim, she'd been forced to become the accomplice. "Why didn't you warn me?" "I tried. Remember all those times I said something felt off about him? But Marcus was smart. He made sure I could never give you specific warnings without implicating myself. And by then, I genuinely cared about him. Stockholm Syndrome, I guess." The information Emma provided led to investigations in 3 other states. Jennifer got her conviction overturned. Amanda was released from Mexican prison with the help of international human rights organizations. Lisa got her nursing license restored. Marcus's federal sentence was extended to 25 years when the additional charges were filed. "Do you feel better?" Emma asked as we prepared to part ways. "Now that he's going to die in prison?" "I feel like the scales are balanced," I replied. "That's close enough to better." Today, Marcus is serving year 7 of his 25-year sentence. He's 52 years old, which means he'll be 77 when he's eligible for parole, if he lives that long. Federal prison isn't kind to men who built their empires by destroying women. Emma completed her sentence and disappeared. Last I heard, she was living under her maiden name in Oregon, working as a cashier and trying to rebuild some kind of relationship with her daughter. "We'll never be friends again, but we're no longer enemies." She became another cautionary tale, another woman who learned too late that loving the wrong person can cost you everything. As for me, I'm still here. Still fighting. Still surviving. But now I'm thriving. The consulting firm has expanded to 3 cities. I speak at conferences about financial crime, write articles about victim advocacy, and maintain a quiet but growing reputation as someone who gets results when traditional methods fail. Tommy graduated from college last month with a degree in criminal justice and a job offer from the FBI. "I want to be the kind of agent who listens to victims," he told me at his graduation party. "The kind who believes them when everyone else thinks they're crazy." "You'll be great at it," I said, meaning every word. "You've seen firsthand what it looks like when the system works and when it fails." Ray and I married 3 years ago in a small ceremony with Tommy as my man of honor and Maria as my maid of honor. We have a partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and complete transparency. Neither of us is willing to sacrifice our integrity for love, which paradoxically makes our love stronger. We talk about having children, about building a family based on honesty instead of illusion. Some days I think we will. Other days I think we're enough for each other, 2 survivors who found love in the ashes of their former lives. People often ask me if I regret the path I chose. If I regret spending years planning and executing an elaborate revenge scheme instead of just moving on with my life. They want to know if the satisfaction was worth the time, energy, and risk involved in bringing down Marcus and Emma. The answer is complicated. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that two people I loved betrayed me so completely that justice became more important than healing. I regret that I lost 4 years of my life to their schemes and 4 more years to planning their downfall. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret refusing to accept victim as my permanent identity. I don't regret proving that the naive woman they thought they could manipulate and discard was actually capable of sophisticated, patient, devastating retaliation. Most importantly, I don't regret showing other women that betrayal isn't the end of your story, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where you get to decide who lives, who dies, and who tells your story. The woman who loved Marcus so blindly that she'd sacrifice her freedom for his was weak, gullible, easily manipulated. But she was also brave enough to risk everything for love, loyal enough to put others before herself, and strong enough to survive when that love was revealed as a lie. The woman I became was harder but wiser, more suspicious but more discerning, less trusting but more trustworthy. I learned that real strength isn't the ability to endure pain, it's the ability to transform pain into power. I learned that love without respect is just another word for abuse. That loyalty without wisdom is just another word for stupidity. That sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who teach you the most about who you really are. Most importantly, I learned that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so successful, so happy, so completely whole without them that their absence becomes their own punishment. If you're watching this and you're in a situation like I was, loving someone who's asking too much, sacrificing too much for someone who wouldn't do the same for you, please, listen to your friends. Listen to that voice in your head that's trying to warn you. Don't wait for a prison cell to teach you your worth. Love should never require you to become smaller, weaker, or more willing to accept unacceptable behavior. Love should never ask you to sacrifice your freedom, your integrity, or your future for someone else's convenience. If someone you love asks you to take the blame for their mistakes, that's not love. That's exploitation. If someone you love disappears when you need them most, that's not complicated circumstances. That's abandonment. If someone you love builds their happiness on the foundation of your suffering, that's not unfortunate timing. That's calculated cruelty. And if you've already been betrayed, if someone has already taken everything from you, remember this: you are not required to forgive people who aren't sorry. You are not required to move on before you're ready. You are not required to prioritize their comfort over your justice. You are, however, required to survive, to rebuild, to prove that their betrayal was not the end of your story but the beginning of your strength. Some people will tell you that revenge is wrong, that it makes you no better than the people who hurt you. Those people have never had their lives systematically destroyed by someone who claimed to love them. Those people have never watched their betrayer build a perfect life on the grave of your dreams. Revenge isn't about becoming like them. It's about proving that victims can become victors, that the hunted can become the hunter, that justice delayed doesn't have to mean justice denied. Marcus thought I was weak because I was willing to sacrifice myself for love. He was wrong. I was strong enough to sacrifice myself for love, which meant I was strong enough to sacrifice anything for justice. The scared, heartbroken woman who walked into Riverside Correctional 4 years ago died in that place. What walked out was someone harder, smarter, more dangerous, and infinitely more capable of recognizing predators before they could strike. I am no longer anyone's victim. I am no longer anyone's fool. I am no longer the woman who believed that love was enough to overcome anything. I am the woman who proved that intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking can overcome anyone who underestimates you. And if that's not justice, it's close enough to sleep peacefully at night. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment if you've survived betrayal and found your way to justice. And remember, you are worth more than anyone's convenient lies. You are stronger than your worst day. You are capable of more than your betrayers ever imagined. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to stay broken.